It's Stoicism at the highest level. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The wise man sees in the misfortune of others what he should avoid. The wise don't wait for disaster to learn how to face it. They observe, reflect, and prepare. They ask the uncomfortable questions most people avoid. What if someone I love dies unexpectedly? What if my job disappears overnight? What if I'm betrayed by the person I trust most?" Not to torment themselves, but to bulletproof their minds. In investing, Howard Marks, one of Wall Street's sharpest strategists, once said, "Risk is what's left when you think you've thought of everything." He never enters a deal without playing out the worst-case scenario. Not because he lacks confidence, but because he understands it's not failure that kills you, it's surprise. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you imagined the worst-case scenario? And when was the last time you broke down because you never thought it would happen? A practical exercise is to build a collapse model. At the end of each week, pick one area of your life, work, love, health, finances, and write down the worst thing that could realistically happen in that space. In detail, no filters. Then write how you would respond. What's your backup plan? Who can you lean on? Then put your phone down. Listen to your heartbeat. If you're still breathing normally, not flinching, you're getting closer to being unshakable. People don't fear you because you're rich or smart. They fear how you can't be rattled. They fear seeing you face loss and not fall apart. Fear you for being prepared for what they don't even dare to imagine. Your calm exposes their fragility. Have you ever watched Mike Tyson walk into the ring? No trash talk, no smiles. His face was almost blank, like the fight had already played out in his mind 100 times before. Tyson didn't just beat opponents with muscle, but with calculated numbness, forged in poverty, abuse, and having nothing to lose. Preparing for the worst doesn't make you cold, it makes you immune to paralysis. Most people avoid thinking about pain because they fear it. You open the door, let it sit at your table, and ask, "What are you carrying?" One last question for you. If you lost everything today, your reputation, your money, your relationships, what would still be intact inside you? A strong mind doesn't have to roar like a lion. It just needs to stay still, unmoved, while the world trembles. And sometimes that calm is enough to silence the entire room. Once you get used to welcoming the worst, the next step comes naturally. Not everything deserves a reaction. And not reacting isn't weakness, it's the ultimate sign of inner strength. But that's another lesson, a quieter kind of power harder to grasp. We'll get to that next. Number 7, power is not reacting, reacting. In life, most of our intense reactions come from trying to control what was never ours to begin with. What others say, how they treat us, how strangers behave, or the outcome of events. But here's the raw truth. We can't control what others think, do, or feel. Reacting impulsively is just a desperate attempt to reclaim control over something that was never in our hands. But there's one thing we do have full control over: how we respond. We can choose to be calm. We can choose silence. We can choose to observe. That's our role in the game. The rest belongs to life, to others, to the world, and we don't have to fight for it. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." When you lose your temper, you've handed over your mind to someone else. And the scariest part, they don't have to do much. A single comment, a look, and you're already gone. Non-reaction is the strength to accept that not everything is worth your peace. You don't have to always have the last word. You don't have to win every argument, because the real winner is the one who walks away without needing to defeat anyone. Listen to this story not because it's dramatic, but because you might see yourself in it. And sometimes watching someone else live through a lesson can wake you up even more. Andrew is a high school teacher. He's not wealthy, not powerful, but his students respect him. His colleagues admire him, not because he's strict, but because he's unshakable. One day, a student's parents stormed into the school, demanding Andrew be fired for discrimination. They shouted at him in the hallway loud enough for entire classrooms to hear. Andrew said nothing. He just listened silently, eyes fixed on the parent. When they finally stopped, not because they calmed down, but because they ran out of steam, Andrew simply said, "I understand you're worried about your child. I'll file a report with the principal as per protocol." He didn't explain himself. He didn't fight back. Yet the entire school leadership stood by him because no one could believe that someone so composed could be unfair. His stillness said everything. It reflected the overreaction back on the other person. This is the shift. Non-reaction isn't tolerance. It's the quiet stance of someone who knows the value of stability. Like a building that doesn't shake in a mild quake, you just know it's solid. And if you're wondering where to start, begin small. A pointless argument online, someone cutting in line, a rude comment, don't reply, don't speak. Just watch yourself in that moment. Don't react. Let your silence become a mirror so others can hear their own noise. Nature once said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." When you react the way others want, you give them the power to shape your character. They pull your strings and you mistake it for making choices. The dangerous part is you won't even notice it right away because reactivity always feels righteous, like you're defending truth, honor, or justice. But really, you're just getting pulled into a game where the rules aren't yours. You think you're in control, but you're being led from feeling to action. A strong mind isn't one that wins debates. It's one that doesn't need them. It doesn't raise its voice to prove anything because it knows its worth isn't up for debate. When you stop reacting, you start living by your own standards. That's when no one can manipulate you with their words, their looks, or even their silence. If you're ready to build a mind so steady it makes others pause. Not because you threaten, but because you don't waver. Drop a comment. Silence is power. And start living like nothing can pull you out of yourself, because that's how you become someone others. Both respect and fear without ever raising your voice. Number 8. Critical thinking is the sharpest weapon. Sharpest weapon. Powerful minds possess a weapon that no one can take away. A sharp, independent spirit that refuses to submit in the fight against the mediocrity of modern life. Lazy thinking, shallow public opinion, and knee-jerk emotional reactions. Critical thinking is the sharpest blade you can forge. But no one is born with it. Critical thinking isn't a gift. It's a battlefield, a daily internal struggle where you constantly interrogate yourself. Why do I believe this? Who's influencing my thoughts? Are my words shaped by real experience or just echoes of the crowd? It's an unrelenting showdown between the habitual self and the awake self. And your victory isn't measured by how many people agree with you, but by the quiet clarity that comes each time you refuse to swallow an unexamined opinion. You don't need to control the world, only how you respond to it. But to do that, you have to learn to rethink, to think deeper, and to think differently. That means when someone says everyone does it, you ask who is everyone and why should I be like them? When headlines flood in, you pause and ask, what's missing here? Not just to be contrarian, but to make room in your mind for truth before emotion or noise hijacks it. The irony is that we live in the information age, Yet most of us have never been taught how to truly think. We consume knowledge like fast food, fast, easy, and undigested. Then we wonder why we feel anxious, exhausted, and lost. A strong mind isn't one that holds the most facts. It's one that knows when to question. Every time you're hurt by someone's words, ask, why did that upset me? What fear did it touch? Every time you're angry, pause. What am I defending, truth or ego? The moment you start questioning instead of reacting is the moment no one can control you. And no, practicing this doesn't have to be complicated. Each day, choose one belief you've always held about yourself, others, the world, and put it under the microscope. When was the last time you truly changed your mind or admitted you were wrong? If you can't remember, ask yourself, are you really living or just repeating an outdated mental script in every conversation? Instead of waiting for your turn to argue, try listening, really listening, to understand what's driving the other person's point. It's hard, painfully hard, because it demands you set aside your ego and take the side of truth, even when the truth doesn't flatter you. A strong mind doesn't need to win every debate. It just needs to avoid wasting itself on debates that don't matter. Like a soldier picking the right battlefield, a critical thinker chooses where their energy goes. Strength lies not in knowing everything, but in knowing what's not worth believing, not worth reacting to, and not worth holding on to. So ask yourself, of all the things you believe, how many are truly yours, and how many were just programmed into you? Remember, no one can fully control their circumstances, but you can control how you interpret them. Critical thinking doesn't make you stubborn, it makes you unmanipulable. You're not easily convinced, and you're not easily triggered.